Hi, peace, love, and Reiki. Welcome to this episode of Global Reiki Webinars. I'm Rachel Goldberg, your host, and I'm so excited for this webinar on the many facets of Reiki mastery, and specifically 5 roles of a Reiki master that the Grandmaster of Usui Shiki Ryoho, Phyllis Furumoto, is online and ready to speak with you about, and me about, and everyone else from our global community who's with us today. So please go ahead and let me know that you can hear me by typing something in on the chat. I see we've got over 100 people who are with us already. That's so exciting. And these are something that, this is the Global Reiki Webinar Project, and it's something that started just a little over a year ago when Phyllis Furumoto put a request out on Facebook to begin to offer teaching, share of herself, and begin a dialogue with our global community through the internet. And I happened to see that post and responded that I could help. And so we've been doing these every 4 to 6 weeks, and we have such an amazing community that's grown. I'm seeing we've got people in England, Honolulu, Germany, Denmark, Holland, Colombia, Georgia, USA. So exciting. We truly are a global community. And I'm glad you guys can hear me. Hello in Russia, hello in Australia, hello in Spain, hello in the Netherlands. Woo! Big group today. So those of you who are with us live, if you have any issues throughout the broadcast, if you're having a hard time hearing me, the best thing to do is to click refresh on your web browser. If anything gets out of sync throughout the broadcast, that's the best thing to do. Or if you happen to get kicked out of the webinar room, you can always use the link you used to get here and log back in. If you are watching us and joining us from some time in the future, meaning you are watching the replay on YouTube, welcome. We feel you here today too, and we're happy that you're with us. And know that if you want to be on one of these live, one of these free public broadcasts, where you want to go is in Facebook. There's a group called Global Reiki Webinars. It's a private Facebook forum where the discussion from these online events continue, and it's also where you'll get the most up-to-date information on upcoming webinars and events so that you can make sure you are here with us live. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Phyllis Furumoto to speak with us about the many facets of Reiki mastery.
Hello, everyone. I'm getting an echo, Rachel, a really bad one. Are you?
I am not.
I'm going to put on my headphones. Sorry for the little delay, but we were doing this earlier and there wasn't a problem. Is there a problem now? No, it stopped.
Okay.
Interesting.
I put in my headset, so.
All right.
Fix the problem.
Yep. I'll keep mine out just in case. Hello, everyone. This is a really wonderful time, and we're just back, as it were, from having our first paid webinar. That was great, and what was really great is that I got to be able, I got to have direct conversation with some of the participants, and we got to see each other and talk. And this particular public webinar is going to lead into another webinar that we're offering as a paid webinar for masters only. So I just wanted to let you know that this is a lead up to another deeper conversation for those of you who join me then. I'm going to start today by asking you all to join me in self-treatment. So let's put our hands on ourselves. It doesn't have to be on your chest. It could be anywhere that you feel a little Reiki would be great. And close your eyes. And imagine us somewhere in your mind, in a field, in a big room, on the beach, under a very old tree, somewhere where we can all be together in a circle. I give thanks for the energy of Reiki, for our individual paths that have brought us here today. And for the continual learning and developing. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. First of all, I would just like to say that every human being, as far as I'm concerned, is on a path of mastery. And for some of us, that path is called Reiki. And often when I think about mastery, my mind sometimes goes to someone very advanced and difficult to connect to because of their state of being. Like I used to think about the masters of the Far East, like in the Himalayas or in Shangri-La, where they could have conversations without speaking to one another, where they could be in two places or three places at the same time, where they lived in the absolute world, in the absolute universe most of the time. However, in Reiki, there are many questions about this word mastery, and a lot of the questions revolve around, well, what does it really mean to be a Reiki master? In the time of my being a master, I've grown to understand that this is a path, and I had to start somewhere. We all had to start somewhere. And where I started was from a time in my life of being very disconnected with my spirit and with my soul, and not having much to do with Reiki consciously, because I didn't attend a class. I had not ever talked to my grandmother about Reiki as a practice, and I didn't really understand what she did when she went off and taught her classes. Then, when I was in my 30s, I was recognized and initiated by Hawayo Takata as a master. And a few months after this, when Hawayo Takata died, I was recognized by the community for them as a Grandmaster. And since then, much of my life has been spent in discovering, what does this really mean? So first, I needed to understand that mastery is a path, not a goal. And this was really important for me because I felt totally ill-equipped, not prepared, and I didn't even know if I could do this with respect. And because I had such questions about who I was as a human being. So when I figured out, or when I arrived at the understanding that this was a path, not a goal, that relieved all the stress, because every human being has the desire, consciously or unconsciously, to walk a path of mastery. And there are many, many paths of mastery. Mastery for me is a state of being and a way of life. And there is a calling, and then there is the discipline to stay congruent with this calling, even if socially or emotionally it's not easy. When I was first beginning to delve into this topic, my teaching partner and I, Paul Mitchell, started to understand that within mastery as a kind of umbrella term, there were different facets or different roles of mastery. And this really helped me to understand why I felt like I would never understand what it meant to be a master. And then I would have an experience of being able to know that I was increasing my understanding, but it felt very confusing somehow. So when I broke these up into facets or roles, it made it much better. So I'm hoping that my speaking to these will assist you in understanding questions you've had about a Reiki master that you've observed or been observing, and wondering, well, how can they call themselves a Reiki master? Or to really understand how recognition develops a master, and how as a student we all recognize our masters, and that in that recognition there is a power to draw out more mastery within them. So anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So the different facets or roles of mastery are initiator, teacher, mentor, student, and tradition keeper. And these I have kept very close to myself for the last 20 years or so, and it's been very helpful. I want to tell you and share with you a little story. When I first became a Reiki master in 1979, we all called ourselves, in theory, Reiki masters. And there were some of us who really couldn't bear to speak this. So they ended up calling themselves Reiki teachers. And this disturbed me, and I didn't really understand why it disturbed me. It just did. And then when Paul and I were working together, we realized that when we were Reiki masters, we were initiators, we were teachers, and we were mentors. And those were the first three that became clear for us. It's interesting that student was not one of them. So anyway, it just goes to show you where our development was. So we saw what we were doing, you know, in the moment. And the role or facet of initiator is probably the most mysterious for all of us. Number one, there are not very many places we can go to learn the responsibilities, the ethics, the moral issues that are connected with Initiator. And there are many. And the other thing is that we don't really know what we're doing. We are given the initiation as a sacred tool. Hopefully all of us hold that sacred tool in its integrity, the way that our master gave it to us. I stand in the energy of initiation every time I initiate a student. And for me, this is the gift of mastery, to be able to stand in this initiation energy along with the student. And when I do this, there are changes inside of me on all different levels. And this is an amazing process energetically for me. It's also, for me, the most mysterious or unknown. Teacher is kind of obvious. So that's kind of why I think a lot of the Reiki masters in the early days would say that they were Reiki teachers, because they could relate to that. You know, they could relate teaching hand positions, or sharing the precepts, or understanding how Reiki worked, you know, how the treatments worked within the human body and so on. So all of these look like teaching, but there's what I've learned since then is that teaching as a part of mastery brings us a very different place from which to come from. It's not just teaching through words, it's teaching through our actions. It's teaching through how we relate to one another. There are lots of facets of teaching. And one of these facets for me is mentorship. Being a mentor for me is something that's built in to being a Reiki master, in my opinion. And mentor, what does this mean, you might ask? The best way that I can explain mentor is perhaps in your own private life. There was somebody when you were a child that you went to, not your parents, but someone that was older, that kind of knew the way of the world, be there for you and actually teach through doing. A great, picture is an uncle or a grandfather who took you fishing, and through the relationship of fishing, taught you about nature and taught you about the ever-changing universe, and allowed you to touch the mystery of the stars and so on. Or maybe it was an aunt or a grandmother who took you and talked to you about relationship, or about the art of cooking, or something like that. Mentorship has to do with somebody walking beside you and watching you and really learning through oral tradition, in the sense of how to be, how to have a kind of state of being. Then after a few years of working with these three facets, I realized, of course, that student was left out, and that it was perhaps a little unconscious denial that, of course, we were all students, and maybe students should come first, because as masters, we are master students. There are first degree students, second degree students, and master students. And each one of these student levels has a sacred tool that is given. For me, this looks like, in first degree, it's the physical treatment. In second degree, it's working with symbols. And as a master, it's standing and initiating. It doesn't mean that you don't learn things through teaching, but the initiation for me is our sacred tool. And being a student is really important for me to have a balance of our studentship. So when I realized that student was a part of my mastery, then I also realized that I had to nurture equally my first degree student inside of me, my second degree student inside of me, and my master's student inside of me. So I needed to be able to go and learn. I needed to be able to deepen each level. And I needed to be able not to just mush them all together, but to understand the separate gifts that each of these initiatory levels held for me. And just recently, Paul and I have added Tradition Keeper. This came from an understanding that practice of Reiki, as I hold it, there are traditions that I'm keeping that I'm unaware of, or I'm unaware of the depth of what this gift is for humanity. And we're just beginning to investigate this particular role. And it was interesting at the end of one of these weekends to understand that there's not just the tradition of oral tradition, it's like the tradition of storytelling, the tradition of listening with all of our ears to our elders, the tradition of developing both in the relative world and allowing that to meet the absolute world or the absolute universe. Like there are so many traditions that are echoed down through our human history that Reiki holds as an intrinsic part of our practice. And I believe that that's part of the gift that we have as Reiki students on all levels, is that as we traditions be alive and well in our own life, that as we keep them for future generations, we are keeping humanity. We are keeping something that's very, very precious. Those are my thoughts for the beginning of this particular topic, and I'd like to turn this over to Rachel and have her start with the questions from the chat.
So we actually had a number of questions submitted in advance, and they may be more than we're able to get through today. So stick around, we might get to yours, and if not, we read it, we thought about it, and Phyllis may get to it in the Facebook group. The first question comes from Lucy, and Lucy wrote, if you could only pick one role that would define a Reiki master, which one would you choose and why?
Well, this is a great question because it is a relative world question, if you know what I mean. So if you can follow my reasoning, and for those of you who weren't in the webinar where I spoke about absolute universe and relative universe, or relative world and absolute world, I'll just briefly say that the relative world is about comparison, is about relationship, is about competition, is about duality in some way. good, better, best. And this is kind of one of those questions. In the absolute, everything is just so. And there isn't space in the absolute world to make a choice like this. I believe that one of the things about being a Reiki master is that I learn to come more from the absolute than I do from the relative. And so there is not a possibility for me to choose one role, because for me, one role is not mastery. And I believe that there are other roles that we haven't identified yet. So I'm just very appreciative of this question, because I never thought of it, because I always saw Reiki master and then these other parts of mastery being included. Now, for those of you who thought that perhaps being a teacher of Reiki was, the definitive role or the only role of a Reiki master, I really encourage you to contemplate adding these other roles and seeing what response you receive from yourself and from other people, because this sort of breaking apart this big title called Reiki Master really helped me answer questions that I couldn't answer before. So, thanks, Lucy.
Okay. Our next question comes from Bill, and Bill asked, is being a Reiki master a calling? Should being a Reiki master be the focus of one's life?
Well, from my perspective, I would say being a Reiki master is a calling. It's not a calling really from out there, like the world needs me to become a Reiki master in order for the world to be saved. It's a calling from within. So, in the 1980s, being a Reiki master looked like a really cool new age job that you could actually earn a living for. And in the 1990s, the early 1990s, when this proliferation of different forms of practice happened, this possibility of our cool new age job sometimes didn't support us the way that we would want. And I include myself, because I had some really deep questions about this. And what I realized from the students who wanted to become masters is that they just said, it doesn't matter to me. Money is not why I'm becoming a Reiki master. I'm becoming a Reiki master because I can't do anything else with my life. This is a calling. This is something that has come to me and it won't let me go. So, of course, if you have something like that, it will become the focus of your life. You can fight it, but my advice is not to fight it, because it's kind of a waste of time, but let it become a focus of your life, so that everything that comes through your life comes through this lens of Reiki Master. And it's a very interesting perspective. It doesn't mean that you constrict your life to all the things that you think are Reiki Master-like activities, but it's about allowing Reiki Master and Reiki to be the focal point through which you look and relate to everything that's in your life. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Kelly, and Kelly asked, from the definition of the word role in the dictionary, which is the duty or use that someone or something usually has or is expected to have, what are your expectations of individual Reiki Master roles?
Well, Kelly, I have to say, this is the time when I would love for you to be able to just pop up and talk to me. So I know you can't do that, but if you're online and I'm not really answering your question, please let me know. So on one level, I relate to this question like, and I rephrase it to say something like, what is my expectation of being an initiator? What is my expectation of being a teacher? What is my expectation of being a mentor, of being a student, of being a tradition keeper? One of my expectations is that each one of these roles will give me a perspective of life that will increase my ability to hold confusion, to hold the creative dissonance that comes through changing realities, that each of these will assist me in discovering the parts of me as a human being and the parts of my universe that I can't see right now. Each of these has a mysterious piece in it, a connection to the mystery, a connection to the unknown, which I feel like is very important. And each of these has substance, like I know the initiation, and this is what helps me hold this so mysterious piece of what I do. Like my students ask me, what do you do? Why do the initiations work? And I truthfully have no idea. And, you know, I keep doing it. And students keep receiving the connection to Reiki. And it's a mystery. And in teaching, I get that it's not the information that I'm putting out, although that's interesting, but that information carries energetic transference that I don't understand, and I don't understand why it does it or in one way and not another way. So it's very interesting. And a mentor is very mysterious because often the lessons or the teaching of a mentor happens through the eyes of the person who's being mentored. The mentor has no expectation and no like agenda. Oh, I'm going to teach this person this lesson today. They just are with the person, and somehow a very profound teaching comes. Student is something that is like keep beginner mind, you know, keep keep being out there, being open for something new. And tradition keeper seems like almost the opposite of that. But actually, we're in a phase of discovering what this practice of Reiki is bringing to humanity. And, you know, the obvious is bringing the power of touch, but that's a tradition that is being belittled more and more and more. And we are maintaining and nurturing that piece of the power of touch in human beings. So my expectations are that each of these master roles will give us a much greater understanding of the path of Reiki mastership. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question was written by Denny. And Denny asked, is it necessary to feel comfortable with the title of master, even if one doesn't actually see oneself as a master? If it is, then how can one acquire the necessary attitude toward and comfort in this role?
Gosh. Well, you know, it took me years, maybe a decade or two, to become comfortable with the title of master. And even now, I have in my head this little thing that goes, well, you know, mastery, as we talk about it today, isn't really like mastery of the Far East, where these people were really enlightened masters. But, you know, when I think about mastery as a path, this idea of having to be a certain way in order to demonstrate mastery, gosh, I just think that those are kind of romantic expectations we have of ourselves as human beings, and that because we have expectations, we don't actually own or experience fully those moments of mastery that we all have in our daily lives. In our daily lives. Every day, I believe that each of you, that all of us as human beings, in a moment of our day, demonstrates mastery in something. And because we have this image, this romantic image of what masters are, what miracles are, we just don't even see ourselves. And I just feel that it would be great if we can understand that mastery is not about being an expert. For me, mastery is about a state of being. And one of the things that someone said to me, well, I guess it was in the late 1980s, beautiful man. He said, you know, I've studied a lot of you Reiki masters, and I just want to tell you that for me, being a master is to know who you are and know who you are not. And I love this. And he said, additionally, that knowing who you are not is the most important. So that gave me a lot of food for thought. So I just thought, well, you know, I'm not really an enlightened being. I'm not really a miracle worker, and yet I have miracles in my life every day. And So it allowed me to see that in our lives as human beings, when we choose a path of mastery, and this could be, Reiki master. This man was a sound engineer, and he was an amazing master of this. I mean, unbelievable. And there are masters of cooking. They aren't all world-renowned chefs. Some of them only cook for their family. It's the attitude, the state of being that anyone has with what they were doing. And in the old days, when there were traditions like crafts and trades, like carpenters and so on, people went through a series of levels, and the top level was called a master carpenter, a master painter, a master chef. And I just met someone who had this young French chef in their home here in the UK for a year. And he was on a 7-year journey to go to different countries and live for some time and be able to touch the people that they were living with, but also to learn more and to be a journeyman, so that at the end of the 7 years, they would be recognized as a master chef, this young man. And, mastery is really about, for me, being able to express oneself and to put the essence of oneself into whatever you're doing. So if it's caring for your children, and you do that, and that comes from yourself, and you are, a master parent, that's great. So I feel that one of the things that's necessary is to understand that mastery, as we hold it now, starts from a place of beginning. And each of us have started from a place of beginning. And, where we end up, we don't know. I mean, I just wonder about children who start with first degree at the age of 8 and really practice and really hold this path until they're 70. What are they going to be like? Well, I won't know, because I won't be alive then, I don't think. But I can see that the quality of my life, the understanding that I have, and the relationships that I have become developed through time. So I would say, that how can one acquire the necessary attitude? Choose it. Thank you, Denny.
Great. And our next question is from Kate. And Kate asked, do Reiki masters retire, or is it a role for life?
Well, I have to say that, when my grandmother was almost 80, she was 77 or something, and she had had a few episodes with her heart, my mother decided that she should retire. And she really gave it her all. I mean, I think she really tried to retire, but she couldn't. And she planned this amazing trip for 3 months. And because of that, I'm now a Reiki master. So, mastery is about a path that we walk for our lives, in our lives, because we live. So it's not actually a role, as in something that we put on like a coat, and then when it gets kind of worn or we don't like it anymore, we take it off. Which reminds me, I think I'll take off my jacket. I'm getting very warm now. But that it is something of a becoming state. We become Reiki Master. And a part of that development is that we own beginnership, we own, apprenticeship, we own journeymanship, and we own mastership. And this is a process that we are all in. And I don't know if it's just for this life as well. So that's another question that I can't answer.
So I'm seeing some people are experiencing frozen image. And again, if you're watching live, the best thing to do is to refresh your browser and see if it catches you back up in real time. So our next question came from Janice. And Janice wrote, in Chicago, we call level 3 Reiki Master and level 4 Reiki Master Teacher. I am wondering if the changes from Master Usui's time to now affect the energy, if at all.
Well, I again, this is another question that I would love, Janice, if you are online now, if you have any help in allowing me to make the connection. So not just in Chicago, there are many, many, many people who are taught in a system that has what I call different levels of mastery. And the way that they divide it usually, and this may or may not be the way that you have, but it's the way I'm familiar, is that the level 3 Reiki Master is, that person is given the given a part of the initiation, or given the initiation itself for personal development. And then at level 4 Reiki Master Teacher, using the interesting word teacher, it means that that person can then use the initiation and have students. But I can't relate to this, which is a kind of contrived separation of a level of initiation. And it's okay that it's contrived. I'm not saying it's contrived in a, well, you might call it a negative way at all. It's just something that as human beings, sometimes we do in order to make it more understandable, more accessible, more something. But again, that's really relative world thinking. And we are really in the absolute a lot here right now. So I'm not sure what changes you're speaking about from Master Usui's time to now, and what the energy is of what? like Reiki energy. So I just take a stab at it. I assume you mean Reiki energy. And human beings cannot affect Reiki energy. That's just not possible. Because even though we are Reiki energy, we can have a different expression of Reiki, but because we are all energy and all of us are different, so the way that we express is different. But to affect Reiki, no. Reiki affects us. So that's my feeling. And the changes, if it's changes in the systems or in the form or practice, well, I mean, I think that the changes of each, how each system or form developed has a different impact on the student. And that's normal because they're all different expressions of the same teaching. So for instance, if I'm really on the right track, in Buddhism, the teachings of Buddha are expressed in many different ways. There's Zen Buddhism, which has as a foundation tenet that meditation is, in a certain way, is the way to enlightenment, is the way to the Buddha energy. And for other Buddhists, there is one sect, S-E-C-T, that believes that language and the power of words repeated is the way to enlightenment. So, their path is the same, their expression is different. And for me, this is my picture of the many forms of Reiki right now. So I hope I've answered your question, Janice. Thanks. And Rachel, since you're in Chicago, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I know, Janice, you and I either have the same master or at least are within a family of Reiki masters. And I can say that specifically what I was taught, and I imagine you were too, is this level that was added that when William Lee Rand created a Reiki Master's manual, there was a level added called Advanced Reiki Training that was between level 2 and Master. And it offered some teachings that were integrated from other lineages, from other practices and modalities that in his practice were very complementary to Reiki and were new ways to experience Reiki energy. And at some point between him and Bernadette Doran, who is within of many of us here in Chicago, that advanced Reiki training simply became called Master Training, and then the Master became called Master Teacher. And I was thinking about your question when I read it of, does it change the energy of Reiki? And I have no idea. It's the only way I know Reiki energy is through this practice that I've been given. And I feel that what Phyllis was saying was in line with those initial feelings of its Reiki energy, and we don't actually have the ability to change it. And so it's just a practice that gets, passed down through a lineage, which is interesting because we have this role of tradition keeper. And so for me, because it's the practice that I've been given, I feel it's valuable to honor those aspects of the practice, even though I know that they're different than the specific practice that has been given to different people along the lineage. And at this point, in my work as a student, I receive new teachings from Phyllis and hear more about the way that she practices. And now there's an integration that's happening within me and within my practice as an initiator and as a teacher, whether it feels really true for me to continue teaching those what we've been calling the level 3 teachings, that aren't exactly Reiki, but are things that are complementary to Reiki. So for me and my path of mastery, and perhaps for you, there's a shift and an integration with the energy and the tradition and all of the wisdom that comes through the entire lineage, as we have this opportunity to receive teaching directly from Phyllis, who for us, she is the lineage bearer, regardless of what's come between. So that's my thinking on that, and perhaps it's very relevant to people in other parts of the world who have this kind of thing that's happened. I'm going to move on to the next question, which came from Marie. And Marie asks, I shy away in saying I am a Reiki master. I feel my self-worth is not up to the standard, still knowing that I am worthy and capable. My teacher passed after my level 2, and she did not initiate other students, only her husband.
So again, Marie, I'd love to know what this means. What it sounds like is that your master didn't initiate you as a Reiki master. So where does your recognition come from as being a master? So that's a question that I have. And a part of the development of a beginning master is to understand that your self-worth has nothing to do with mastery. Now, that sounds really strange, I'm sure. But, you know, some people measure self-worth by how much money you have in the bank. Some people measure self-worth by how aggressive you are in business deals. You know, some people measure self-worth in how you dress. So these are all relative world things. What mastery does is it allows you to recognize yourself as a human being. So I liked these two statements that felt conflictual. I feel my self-worth is not up to the standard, and then still knowing that I am worthy and capable. So get out of the relative world and into the absolute world, and find yourself a mentor as a Reiki master. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Nicholas, and Nicholas wrote, what responsibility do we have as Reiki masters to adapt to new historical details and rediscovered practices of the original Reiki teachings? Do we owe it to our students to address this information?
Basically, the answer is yes. Because as a master, even though I had a lot of reaction, I would say is a good word, in the very beginning to some of the new historical details, what I realized I was reacting to was not the historical details, like the founding of the memorial stone and then reading a translation of what was written on the memorial stone. Totally supported the story that I heard from Hawaii Takata And so I still tell the story as I heard it from her. And I didn't have to change my practice because it supported my practice. The issues, because of the globalization process of Reiki, many of the parts of the story that went through different cultures or different languages ended up actually being changed. So sometimes the new historical details aren't really new for me. They're just confirmations of what I've already known. And so for some people, it's really difficult. And it's important to go inside and feel the ones that actually make a difference to your practice. Like for me, the birth date and death date of Mikao Usui doesn't make a whit of difference in the practice for me. But the understanding of his character and the understanding of Japan as a culture in that time really helped me to understand the story as I was given it, and to just have it be my story. And it's been very powerful in that way. The rediscovered practices of the original Reiki teachings, I'm not sure what you mean. I would connect this to the form of practice called Usui Gakkai, which is the original association connected to Mikao Usui's teaching. These practices are held by this association as secret, which means that those people who have brought out the practices and taught it to other people have broken this particular way of holding these practices. I don't like that, to put it bluntly, but it happened. So now we have glimmerings of these practices, but we don't have the context. And excuse me. And so to adopt practices without understanding the context or having the context in our practice is a disservice to the Usui Gakkai, and it's also a disservice to our students, in my opinion. In my place, my practice came from Mikao Usui's teaching Chuchijiro Hayashi. What he heard, what he felt like was important, what he put into practice in his clinic, all these different things shaped the practice as I know it now, as I was given it. And then it went to Hawayo Takada, who also had ears, so she heard what she wanted to hear. She heard what she did hear. She wanted to preserve the practice as much as she could, to have it be, to have the culture of Japan come down through the practice itself, because part of the cultural aspects of Japan at the time were a part of the context of learning Reiki. So I don't need to go back to the original, whatever that means, original Reiki teaching, because mine are original. They have come through a developmental process, but they started with Mikao Usui, and I believe the essence has come down through that. And my form of practice may, I don't know how close it is to Mikao Usui and to Usui Gakkai. And in truth, I don't care. And I don't know, because I haven't pursued it. because the form that I was given has proven to have changed my life. It continues to teach me. It continues to give me a very strong relationship with the energy of Reiki. And I'm not bored, and I haven't reached the end. So until I do that, I'm totally happy with the practice as I hold it. And I don't need to go off and seek another practice. And, you know, I really encourage everybody to be the same. So if you are drawn to a certain teaching and you want to, as a master, incorporate that into your own private practice, well, that's one thing. But if it wasn't taught to you as a teaching for your students by the master who initiated you, then I feel that it is important for you to go back to that master and talk to them and say, is this something that I can incorporate into my practice? How do you feel about this? Because the original has a context of being totally seeped in the Japanese culture, in the Japanese language. And, you know, we don't have that. Well, most of us don't anyway. So we have what we have. It's been valuable. Do we just decide that's not valuable, but the original is more valuable? Again, we get into the relative world and, you know, accept what is, that this is the path you were given. This is the practice you were given. This is what you are. This is your path of Reiki mastership. And that's totally enough. I have this wonderful Japanese calendar that has only, you know, numbers for the days. And today's message is, be grateful for what is so. Thanks, Nicholas.
Our next question is from Rolf. And Rolf asked, each Reiki master can initiate other Reiki masters?
This is where I flow into the understanding of mastery as a whole. You know, when Hawayo Takata prepared me and initiated me as a master, recognized me as a master, what she said to me was, let Reiki teach you. So the message that that gave me was, she's not the teacher for this part of my life. Reiki is. And if Reiki indicates or calls you to become an initiator of masters, then that's something that you must consider very carefully. Because I believe that the path of mastery is as varied as the individuals on it. So each one of us has our own expression of what that is. And for some, they're not going to initiate other Reiki masters. But his question is, can they? Well, of course you can. But why would you do something that's not on your own path? That's my question. And, you know, when I initiate a Reiki master, I'm not giving them mastery. They've already totally deserved the recognition of mastery that comes through this ceremony called initiation. I don't make masters. I recognize them. And everybody can do that. Every student does that. It's really interesting. So there's another piece of this for me, which is, as a master, I believe that I cannot be a master unless somebody recognizes me. And that recognition must come from my master, but also from students, because then it moves through me in these two directions that are very important. I hope that was clear. Thanks, Rolf.
Great. And thanks, Phyllis. Our next question comes from Jennifer. And Jennifer wrote, do you feel that everyone should have the opportunity to receive the Reiki attunements, whether for the different levels or to become a Shihan, regardless of their ethics or motives? And there's an added note here that Shihan means literally to be a model, but it is a formal word for sensei or instructor or teacher, usually in martial arts.
Well, this is a really interesting question. So this is the way I respond to it. Do you feel that everyone should have the opportunity? Well, for me, I don't feel like I get to make that choice. Ever since Mikao Usui developed this practice into something that was a teaching, a path, everyone has the opportunity. And that's just so. That's in the absolute. And it is everyone's choice whether they choose that opportunity. So that's the first part of her question. And the second part has to do with this ethics or motives. So again, ethics and motives are relative world qualities. In the absolute, every human being is divine. Every human being is on a path of mastery. Every human being chooses their path. And every human being struggles with the relative world. That's my answer. Thanks, Jennifer.
Camilla asked how to cope and respond to students becoming psychotic or illness blushing up after initiation to Reiki. Also, how can I be a friend and Reiki master teacher to the same person?
Hawaii Chikata had another really nice little phrase that says, not ill reaction. So I believe, and I personally, I don't know, because I'm not really in touch with the result of treatments or initiations from other forms of practices. But if they are sincere and genuine, these other forms of Reiki, then for me, we end up looking at them because they're in change, or because they're in the spiritual pain, or because I don't know what, and we label them, psychotic or ill or whatever. And I believe it's just a response to Reiki. And that the best thing to do is give them more Reiki so they can work it out. And not label them or diagnose. See, part of our process as Reiki students and as masters is we don't diagnose. They can go to a psychiatrist or a GP or whatever and get a diagnosis, and we can work with that. But sometimes, these things just happen, and they are things that the student has to work through. It looks bad news sometimes, but it's not. It's their opening into themselves. So how to cope and respond? Offer Reiki and be compassionate. Also, how can I be a friend and a Reiki master teacher to the same person? For me, this is very unusual. I usually don't initiate my friends because I choose them to be friends, not Reiki students. And sometimes Reiki students do become friends, but not very often. And it is over a period of time, and that person knows that if they want me to be with them as a Reiki master, they have to be clear about that. And if they want me to be with them as a friend, they also have to be clear about that. So it's difficult. It's not something I recommend, and it's something that happens. Thanks, Camilla.
Great. So the next question, which may be the last one we have time for, comes from... We also, Phyllis, I don't know if you've seen, and for those of you who've been submitting, there are so many wonderful questions coming in on the live chat. And what I can do is I've been pulling them all to a document that I will make sure Phyllis has a chance to look at, and they'll be addressed in some way, whether it's directly in the Facebook group or in another program. They'll be integrated into what's happening. So the best thing to do if you want to have some follow-up is to stay tuned for future webinars, and go join the Facebook group Global Reiki Webinars if you're not in there already. So this question from Roz is, can a Reiki master meet with other Reiki masters so that everyone's level, vibration, is raised? How can this be done?
So basically my answer is I don't know. And I don't understand why you would want everyone's level to be raised. It assumes that vibration gets better when it's higher, which is, again, another relative world question. I love choirs. And I love choirs because I get a lot of different sound vibration. I get very low sound vibration, and I get very high sound vibration. And I love the combinations. And, without these different vibrations, life would be really boring. So I don't see the necessity or even the possibility that this could really happen. So anyway, that's my answer to this question.
Okay.
And I'd love to take the last question, if you don't mind. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's a good one. So it comes from Ursula, who wrote, was there any situation when you have had to deny a request of a student to move forward to Reiki second degree or master degree? And if yes, how did you communicate this to the student?
Again, this is a question that's phrased in the relative world, and it really is an absolute world question. So I never deny a request. I just say this is not the right time. And both of these levels take preparation. And I mentor them so that they reach a level of preparation that I feel like is appropriate for that initiatory process. And it's easy to communicate. If you look at it, remember as a path, not a goal, and not an achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will be closing with a little bit of Reiki. So please stay tuned for that. We've just got some announcements. And the first one is our next program that we're offering is one of these, what we've been calling, and the terminology may change, but an online intensive. And it's coming up on Sunday, September 4th, in most parts of the world, at least. And it's going to go deeper into this conversation of specifically the path of mastery. And on the online intensives, what's different from these public webinars is, in addition to being able to engage and communicate live via chat, participants also have the opportunity to come on live, share their video, and actually have a live conversation with Phyllis and with the rest of the people who are participating. And this program is also going to be 3 separate longer webinar sessions so that the conversation about the path of a Reiki master can really unfold and develop and go deeper and become more intimate, both with Phyllis and with the group that forms for this experience. And I'm going to put up on your chat a little pop-up where you can see the registration page. There's a 3-part registration process, and I think I said, but I'll say again now, that this program, it's a paid program. There's a tuition of $126, and we request that you only register if you are practicing at the master level, not because there's any better or worse around where someone is on their Reiki path, but because this is something, this experience, we have limited enrollment since it is intimate in nature, and we want to make sure that people who are walking the path of mastery have the opportunity to come and share this experience with us and with others. So I think that that is up on your screen right now. Oop, no, I didn't hit display. There you go. So you should be seeing it, online intensive on the path of Reiki mastery. There's an orange button, click to register. And I'll also go ahead and share the link to this registration page in our Facebook group for those of you who are watching the replay. You can find it there. One other thing that you can do is, if you love this experience, if you'd like to show your appreciation by offering a gift, specifically a monetary gift, we do accept monetary donations, and that can be offered through PayPal. Our PayPal account is linked to the Gmail address, which is just reikiwebinars@gmail.com. Again, that's reikiwebinars@gmail.com. And you can go through PayPal and offer a monetary gift to show your gratitude and your appreciation for this time with us today. And let me check my notes. Phyllis, is there anything else that you want to say about the program for Masters on September 4th?
No, I think you've covered it really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And again, if you want to click through to that registration page, there's a detailed course description that Phyllis wrote out for everyone who's considering that experience with us. So the last thing we're going to do is close out with a little bit of Reiki, and that can be self-Reiki, like we did in the beginning, or if it's within your practice to send distance Reiki. One thing I like to do that I invite you to join me in is sending distance Reiki to our collective highest purpose and feeling that in this moment and throughout space and time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everything you shared today, Phyllis, and thank you for being with us live and being with us energetically if you are with us in the future, which is right now where you are. And we have such a wonderful community, and it's my honor and my privilege to be able to witness all of us connecting and coming together in this way. So we do have another public webinar coming up at the end of September, and you'll see information about that either through the Facebook group or through the email list. If you've ever participated in one of these live events, if you've ever actually been with us for the public broadcast, you're on our email list and you'll get an invitation when we open registration for that next program. So we'll keep the chat open a moment, and until next time, peace, love, and Reiki.
Bye, everyone.
Mm-hmm.